Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 141 of TDI. We're back with our She-Hulk reactions after episode 3 dropped this Thursday. I'm coming off instant reactions here. I watched it about 5 minutes ago, saw the post-credit scene that everyone's talking about. I feel dead inside a little bit. Where is society going at this point? So where we leave, so let me introduce Ricky Flex because my head's kind of buzzing right now.
Forgot something.
I have no idea what I just watched. I don't know what I just watched. Ricky Flex, how are you? We're coming off Lord of the Rings draft, right? How do we feel today?
We're coming off such a high, and then we get She-Hulk. But then we got the Rings of Power tomorrow. So we have that to look forward to. House of the Dragon on Sunday. But we get the cameo show to review today.
I don't know what to say, Ricky. This is the show that we decided we were going to go back to Disney Plus with the Marvel shows. We took a break with Miss Marvel, even though I was going to have connections to Captain Marvel's sequel, right? The Marvels, starring one Brie Larson, and now with Iman Vellani coming on as Miss Marvel. We said, okay, we see the trailer for She-Hulk. We see Jennifer Walters accompanied by characters in the trailer like Wong, who we got this episode, Emil Blonsky, who we also got this episode. We have Hulk, Mark Ruffalo in the mix, and we even get a glimpse at Daredevil. And then after a semi-promising first episode, I have found that these next two episodes have been absolute duds, and I really think I've hit rock bottom after watching this third episode. I don't know. I know I haven't had much time to reflect on it because this is an instant reaction, but I feel like I'm being very true to myself when I say that it's just not funny. And I think it's trying to be so meta and it's trying to be so reflective of what the Marvel fan base is. We'll get into the details of this episode. It's trying to be so different than what the MCU has done before. And I think even though it is very different, it's not successful in a way that's entertaining for Marvel audiences. I think we're starting to build towards a larger story here with a villain, but it felt like a lot of emptiness this episode. And it felt like they were just trying to force a lot of jokes that did not land and a lot of people think aren't funny, even though they think they're being clever. That's my honest reactions. What do you think of this episode?
I would agree. I would say the comedy did hit. Like, when I say hit, it's not what I usually mean. I should rephrase that. Like, it didn't hit as in I was laughing out loud, but like a lot of the Emil Blonsky like stuff, like I had a grin on my face. Or
I like Tim Roth here. Tim Roth did well.
It was funny. Like, the way they're going about Abomination is funny, but it's not like laugh out loud. I think Jennifer Walters itself is just kind of, it's carrying herself in an unusual light for Marvel, I would say. And I just don't think they know how to do it or work it correctly. And I will say, like, this corniness and how she's acting, She-Hulk is like in the comics, She-Hulk is like this as well. Like, the portrayal that they're doing isn't like a 180. Like, this is who She-Hulk is. So I think they're doing the comics justice. It's just that we might not like them. That's
Right.
what I'm thinking. And I would also say the subplots are horrendous, which is what is driving the show down for me. And like what you have with Dennis in this episode, the misogyny going on here, the new Asgard shapeshifter that they're working with here, and the far-reaching comedy that they're trying to throw at us that's really failing there is just failing and bringing the show down. And I think the whole show in its entirety, I think they know who they are, which I do like as well. And I think this episode really showed that. And they did that through the fourth wall breaks with saying this isn't a cameo show, but then her thinking, okay, maybe it is. It is. That's why we're watching. That's how they got us to watch. They got you with Mark Ruffalo. They got me after the trailer in Daredevil. And I will say one bright spot from this episode is that I can see I didn't know how Daredevil was going to fit in the show. Now I know because of this episode, I think. We don't know that for certain, but I think now I know based off the ending of this episode. So all in all, I agree with you. I also just mentioned the CGI once again. Awful. awful, awful,
It's not
awful.
improving.
It might be getting worse. Just in the office. Is it the office setting that's like causing this disorientation? I don't know. But that's also another thing I just want to also point out, especially with all this talk about the VFX and CGI artists getting overworked. They're outsourcing their projects because they have so many other projects they're working on at the same time. This is clearly a result of that. And this couldn't have come out at a worse time when those not protests, but like allegations or the news there is coming out at its peak. So this couldn't have come out at a worse time.
Certainly seems consequential. We talk about how Marvel movies haven't aged that well because of early days. We're going on, right? Like 14, 15 years of the MCU at this point. CGI historically doesn't age well unless you're Lord of the Rings. Please check out our draft that we just had in preparation for the Rings of Power episode. First 2 episodes coming to Amazon Prime. We're going to be doing those recaps. But it's in real time that this is bad, right? And I think you're right. It really does shine through when she's in the office setting. Maybe it's by the fact that when she's next to Bruce Banner, she's also not next to someone in human form, so you're more accepting of how she looks. But when she's in the office setting, it really looks like she's a Call of Duty character. That's exactly what it looks like. It's disturbing.
World of Warcraft.
You just think that Marvel would be ahead of the curve on this type of stuff, but like also with these productions, you got like 6 different projects coming in a year span between movies and shows. Like you're overworking that VFX team, and I think we're paying the price here. I do think, and I agree with another point that you made. I want to see more Tatiana Maslany, and I don't want to see all these other characters like you talked about. I don't want to see this elf from Asgard, even if she's playing a bigger role. I thought the performance, like, so cringy, hard to look at. Dennis, get him out of here. I know he has a story from the comics. It's a tight relationship with Jennifer Walters, an antagonistic one. He even becomes a villain of sorts at some point in the comic books.
Please don't do that for us.
I just, and it is a cameo show. And to that point, I hate that idea. To have Wong like for 5 seconds of the show. I'm not sure Wong would ever return to the show. I don't know why he would return to the show, right? Because now if he returns, like he's wanted for a crime, why would he come back after he is the one at the end of last episode we find out is the one who breaks Abomination out of prison, which seems like he didn't have to do, but he's like, I have to prove myself as the Sorcerer Supreme. I need a worthy fighter.
Could have found anybody.
The whole point of the show, right? She-Hulk is to kind of show how superheroes populate, right? Most places around the world, they're global, and like there's so many of them. Yet you had to break one guy out of prison, like to show that like you can train him, become a Sorcerer Supreme, and like he could be looked at as a Sorcerer Supreme, win these underground battles, like. And it doesn't really line up with Shang-Chi, which seems like Wong had a prior relationship with Abomination, which you talked about in the previous episode. It seems like there's a little hole in the writing there with the connectivity of the MCU. Usually it's much tighter. It seems like with these shows, it's loosening up a little bit. I think that's all. That's really what I got. And I think there's still so many places the story has to go and unfulfilled storyline points, like storyline here. You got Titania, no mention here, except for the fact I think they said there was like a mention in the news blurb that like she has hired someone as her lawyer or something like that. That lawyer might be Matt Murdock, right? What if Matt Murdock is somehow representing Titania, even though they're in LA? That might not match up. I think you're theorizing something different about Matt Murdock, and I'm interested in what I'm going to let you reveal that. But I think we just need to have more Tatiana Maslany. She was a strength in her chemistry with Mark Ruffalo in the first episode. She was shining in the second episode. This one, Tim Roth is great. He's the only one worthy, like sharing the screen with her. And Wong's just a star of Phase 4 now. he is the guy. And even you have Maslany at the beginning go like, yes, we know you want to see Wong, and like you're right, because like I don't like any of this show so far except for Mark Ruffalo and your chemistry, right? Bring me that flavor right there. I think we should talk about Wong, right? We should talk about Wong. Do you think he should have been in this show? Why was he forced to be here out of any character? Like any theories?
I don't know. I think the only reason they had it's like now I'm thinking the only reason he was in Shang-Chi non post credit scene was for this show to connect Abomination with this show. You know?
I think it's reverse. I think that She-Hulk is planned afterwards, and like Abomination, like what? Look at the like quote unquote success we had with Daniel Brühl as Zemo and Falcon the Winter Soldier, which eventually becomes Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Maybe they get a similar storyline with Abomination, like with Baron Zemo in that show. And what's the latest time we saw Abomination? We saw him in Shang-Chi, right? Maybe this was the plan, but like it just feels awkward to have Wong in here. It almost feels like for no reason. And
It felt awkward.
I can't see him coming back for like a quote unquote final major battle. It just makes zero sense when you have Daredevil coming on the scene and we have a much more street level hero with She-Hulk, similar to like a Daredevil, similar to a Spider-Man, where it's just like Wong just feels out of place.
Yeah, he does feel out of place. I think I'll just add I don't think he'll come back in this show. I personally don't think he will. I think it's done. And since we're talking about Wong, we could just shift to Abomination for a second. When they said, "Oh, you got to wear this thing, ankle bracelet or whatever, so you don't turn into so we know when you turn into Abomination again." So he's turning into Abomination again, is what they're telling us. Will it be in this show? I think is the question. And you want to say yes, right? But I don't know. Is he going to develop this meditation therapy thing during this show? I don't think so. I don't think they'll go through that big of a time jump. So are we going to see Abomination again?
I think Abomination, I think, is coming back. I think that's obvious because like She-Hulk series connection to the old Hulk, but like I'm just thinking about it was just seemed like almost time filler for him to escape at the end of this episode and have the parole hearing and have that as a central part of it, just to have Wong there. And this is where it feels like a legal comedy where it's not really connecting that tightly from one episode to the next. It's also like 27 minutes, fill up the time, throw in as many jokes as possible. You didn't need to have that scene. He was going to be on trial anyway for parole. He was there. Like he was going to have the parole hearing no matter what. It was just an excuse that you can have Wong here because you don't trust that She-Hulk can carry the load as a TV show, right?
Yeah,
On her own.
This show is not about like you mentioned connectivity.
Yeah.
I think it's not about connectivity at all.
I don't think so either. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's just using familiar faces within the MCU to get you to watch the show like they're doing to us, and we're doing these weekly episodes with it, right? That's what they're doing. So you have that familiarity. So you're just like, oh, She-Hulk, this is still in the Marvel canon. This is still in the MCU and has that MCU feel. And this might lean towards more comedy or might be a little quirkier than other Marvel projects that we do. But we want you to know, like, hey, these characters, like our main character is still important because Wong, because Bruce Banner, because Abomination, all these other characters is involved with our protagonist here. And I think that also goes back to my initial point where like my main takeaway is like this episode, like put the stamp on it where it's like it's accepting the fact that not only it's a cameo show, but this is like a for fun show. This isn't prestige TV. This isn't WandaVision. This isn't Loki. This isn't Moon Knight. That's why like I'm not so like critical of like it as like a show critically. Like I'm critical of like, all right, you're not trying to be a prestige TV show. You're trying to be more like a sitcom. Okay, I'm going to view it like that. So I'm going to view like those courtroom scenes aren't funny and they're terrible. This one, again.
They're trying to be funny though, you know?
Right. So that's how I'm going to like critique it. That's why I'm like, I might sound harsh, but like I'm trying to like, my lens is different than like if I was watching Loki, which clearly Kang the Conqueror, direct correlation there, huge implications for the MCU in general. This one's like, no, we're using parts of the MCU in general to use in our small local show.
Right. The whole point of this show, and I'm now accepting the fact it's inconsequential to the future of the MCU, really. Right.
Exactly.
That doesn't have high stakes. It's more about checking in on Thursdays, 27 minutes of your time, have some fun. You'll maybe get a Wong pop it in somehow. You'll get a Daredevil pop it in. You'll get an Emil Blonsky. And that's where it's going. Maybe it introduces, hey, this is a 20, maybe not even 20 minutes. This is like 10 minutes of a character you'll see in the future. We just want to make you aware that he exists in the universe. It's not going to lend to, oh, what's happening in the next Marvel team-up movie? What's happening in Secret Wars? What's happening, right, in Kang Dynasty? I don't think you're really going to get that in this show. And I think it'd be a terrible idea if you like with all these inconsequential post-credit scenes, if like the final one has a huge lead-in, because you've already established the fact that this doesn't have high stakes. You can't do something major at the end. As long as you don't do that, I'm willing to accept it for what it is, but you got to be funnier, right? And you can't be so critical of the Marvel fan base, and we'll get to that in a sec. But it seemed like you're about to say something.
Yeah, like two quick things. One, it's like, yeah, you can't have anything consequential because I wonder how many people are still watching this
People
show.
dropping off. People are
Yeah.
got to be dropping
And
off.
we'll never get a correct number, an actual number. Disney will never, like Netflix does with their actual like how many people are watching a show or a movie. We won't get an accurate number from Disney Plus. We won't. But how many people are dropping off? And that's why it's like, yeah, we can't do anything consequential. We could do that with Loki. We could do that with WandaVision because those are huge characters in the MCU canon inside of phase 3 and into phase 4. And like those are actually like premier prestige TV. This one you can't. And I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, I don't want Daredevil anywhere near this because I just feel like Daredevil's a character just based off the Netflix show. You're bringing back Matt Murdock, like Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock,
an important character for the future of the MCU.
Yeah, it's just like he doesn't match with this tone at all. But they're gonna do it, so I got to get past that. So now it's like looking past that. It's like, all right, what did we just talk about? Like, this is not gonna be consequential. This is gonna be a local, like non-prestige TV. Just like stick to your guns, She-Hulk, and that's it. We're not going to Outer World MCU. Yeah. Then like I view Bruce Banner, I view Matt Murdock, Daredevil bigger than that. I do. That's why I'm not happy.
Bruce Banner makes sense, just the relationship with Jennifer Walters,
right.
She-Hulk.
But Daredevil now, it's like, damn, like, we're really minimizing or marginalizing Daredevil then if we're going to be doing that. Because what my prediction, not to jump the gun here, is
do it.
The gang scene at the end. The
gang
scene at the end, it's like our boss is going to be happy with this. Their boss, it's probably Kingpin.
Street level.
Who's already been introduced with Hawkeye. And now it's like, okay, what can draw Matt Murdock out to LA? It's following the Kingpin's crimes. That is what is going to draw Daredevil, not Matt Murdock, Daredevil out to LA. Probably to follow this Asgardian technology that's been robbed. And then that's going to introduce throughout this series, introduce his own show. So that's good. We get some, like, we get the Daredevil what we want, right? But I just want to make sure they fit in him tonally correctly, which I don't trust.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. Daredevil makes sense because he's a street level hero, right? They say boss in a street level like Marvel series. You're like, oh, they're talking about Kingpin, just a natural connection there. That would help lead to, right? Daredevil's appearance here. We just talked about how it's going to be inconsequential, but it probably is going to lend to the Echo series that's coming, where Echo has an established relationship with Kingpin, right? So Kingpin is probably going to be, right, the villain of Echo. And we already know Daredevil is going to make an appearance in that show, and we know the history that Daredevil has with Kingpin. It's kind of controversial. It hasn't been established what is canon from the Netflix series, but Daredevil and Kingpin, they're arch rivals with one another. So in that case, it kind of has wider like connectivity that we were just kind of dismissing with this show. It's just a matter of whether characters fit. Does it have the potential to change tones based on the situation? Like when things get like serious in this show, are they just still going to rely on the comedy? Like, how is that going to work? Are we going to see like Charlie Cox like breaking down jokes as Daredevil? Can't really imagine it. I can only imagine. Like I would almost say Daredevil has less screen time than Wong in this show. I think it's going to be close, just because Daredevil, you said it, he doesn't fit in this show. Right, Wong gets like pretty much a quarter of an episode here. Maybe Daredevil's there. He gets sent away towards the end, and She-Hulk has to do some ground. I don't think Kingpin is like the big bad of the She-Hulk series. I really doubt that, but I think he is the boss that they're talking about. That's why Daredevil's there.
Yeah, I agree. And Daredevil, again, like street level, like not just with Daredevil the character. I'm talking about the show. That's street level show. That's going to be cool. Like that's not going to really connect largely to phase 4, phase 5 Avengers, right? So it's keeping it street level as in with Marvel. So I understand that connectivity.
Echo, Born Again, you know?
But I think just my last point here on this is that, yes, I mentioned it's not prestige TV, but I also feel like this is just Yep, Disney Plus needed to get subscribers. We needed a show, She-Hulk show. This
Just
feels
filling it
every
in.
episode more and more like it's a filler show, just like something to put on Disney Plus to get subscribers. That is what it feels as this episode or the series goes on. Hopefully it changes once like we get more implications, like actual things going on in She-Hulk, like a true plot, because so far we haven't gotten one. Emil Blonsky, that's like kind of over. Like we haven't really gotten anything substantial
Nothing.
yet.
It's really
And we're
nothing.
3 episodes in.
And we got a little taste of a potential villain. If it's not Kingpin, maybe it's somebody else and from the She-Hulk comic books or something like that. But this is the first hint of a villain. Like Emil Blonsky seems like he's going to be an ally, if anything, in this show,
Right.
unless he
And we're a
makes
third of the way. Like this is 9 episodes. We're a third of the way through. We don't have like
Titania has an awkward scene at the end of the first episode. It gets mentioned in some news clips, like what she's doing, right? Still, maybe she's like, I guess, like the person street level crime boss. I doubt it. So it's a little too flashy for that, in my opinion. And she's going to trial. Doesn't seem like she'd be running the street level crime. It's just it's rubbing me the wrong way. It's rubbing me the wrong way. No direction.
You know how like in movies we always talk about the 3 acts, right? This series has 9 episodes. We're through 3 of them. So we're through the first act. There's been no inciting incident. Is the gang seen the inciting incident? I don't know yet. Because if you say Daredevil's only in it for 10 minutes or less than long, then that's definitely not the inciting incident for a She-Hulk series. So we have to know like what is going to be the catalyst here for She-Hulk moving forward, and we don't know that through 3 episodes. That's a huge issue, especially through like the first 2 episodes are kind of like the backdrop origin story that was kind of drawn out already, especially this episode 2 really drawn out. I felt like it could have been 10 minutes, but they drew it out to 25. So they really got to put some context here, and they just have like going forward, or else they're going to lose even more people watching, I think.
Last thing, as we wrap up this reaction episode, I think although we sound a little negative on this show, I think we're actually coming around to just accepting what it is. So I think good on us. I think there's a lot more angrier Marvel fans out there. It seems like no matter if it's a show or movie, it seems like people just expect something that's going to hint at potential Secret Wars action, potential Kang Dynasty. That's like the curse of Marvel. When you announce like these upcoming projects, people just want a hint of what's happening next, right? And sometimes you're going to figure out from these shows, you may not get it. I do also want to say, we got the fight at the end of her as She-Hulk, but like she really hasn't been She-Hulk a lot of this time, other than the office setting where she is just twerking in the post-credit scene with Meg the Stallion. Also an example of like the cameo, like I guess the cameo movement of this show, like how they're so poised to like. I think they just want to get clicks. They want to get attraction to this show.
Megan Thee Stallion reportedly a superhero before this episode.
Like they made Wong a LinkedIn. You got Titania, who's like an influencer, and then also is in the real world now, who's verified, posting with Meg the Stallion and things like that. I do want to talk about also this show kind of takes a shot at Marvel fans. There was a moment where there's a live, there's a couple like Twitch streams going on. There's a couple like message boards that are being posted. I actually screenshotted a couple from the show. There's a message board that was taking shots at She-Hulk, and it says things like common Marvel fans have said, where it says like, no more female superhero, please. Why are you turning every superhero into a girl? Why everything got to be female now? Wow, someone find a reason to cancel hashtag She-Hulk. This seems like it's very responsive to the fan base, like the Marvel's responding to the fan base and what's happened in recent years. And I think it starts with like the Captain Marvel being released back in 2019, okay, prior to Endgame. What are your what's your reaction to Marvel taking the stance and kind of coming at their fans with this episode?
It's bold. It's bold.
Definitely.
They're a little too big to fail, Marvel is, and this is like one of the first times besides the actual productions of ambitious shows, or ambitious isn't the right word. Like a She-Hulk, like C-list, D-list superheroes, like having their own projects there. Like that's bold in itself, and that's getting a little cocky and arrogant and like too big to fail vibes. That what we had in this show was like almost too big to fail vibes, because that is not going to stop the comments. I feel like
It's
behind the
going to
scenes,
ignite them. Do they not
yes.
live in this day and age? Like
Like
this is only going to incite them to comment further, and they will stop watching the show now. It's like you're telling, but at the same time, like, do you want those people watching the show? Probably, right? You're
you
Disney
do.
Plus. You want as
They
many
will.
viewers as possible, you know. But like at the same time, like, don't anger these people who you're trying to like attract to come see like the future of the MCU. But like, are they really going to not tune in? That's the thing.
It was bold. It was very bold, and it's just funny because the same day or yesterday, when you're listening to this, it's Disney Plus, or Disney's looking into having Disney Plus similar to Amazon Prime, where they're trying to get you to trying to do perks through their parks and merchandise through Disney Plus to get more subscribers there
It
too.
should have happened earlier.
So it's just like clearly they want the clicks. They want no bad publicity. Bad publicity is good publicity, or whatever you want to, whatever the saying is there. I think that's what they're going for. But like they have to know that people are just going to erupt afterwards. And I'm not saying this will ever stop, but again, it goes back to, hey, this is where Marvel, you were asleep at the wheel, not promoting more female superheroes earlier, as opposed to DC, right? And you're trying to catch up, and some people think it's an overload, some people don't. And now it's really blowing up in your face where you have to go in one of your projects and literally stamp Reddit posts and tweets and things like that. Again, very bold, very bold. I was shocked when I saw that, but then again, I was like, well, that's this type of show. That's this type of show.
Just be ready for the replies of the woke, just saying like woke for this show. It's kind of just like the world we live in. You make a blockbuster this day and age, like it's going to be inclusive and it's going to try and target all audiences, but also it's just going to anger a few. It almost feels like shows are becoming just naturally politicized rather than like taking a stance. Like people are going to find ways to think certain things. People already have their opinions on Disney. It's just I feel like it's a lose-lose situation. So that's why they did it. It's just a lose-lose, and this is just a way for them to attack the haters.
Yeah, and I'm connecting back to earlier,
quote unquote haters. I'm not calling them haters. It's just like they like what they like.
Right. And I think just connecting back to what you said right before the comment about that scene, when like every time you see a Marvel project, you think it's going to be huge or going to be connected to the Avengers or something like that. And that's again where maybe like looking at this show and other shows that they've done and projects, again, DC, where they do just separate projects completely outside the DCEU, but still within DC. Marvel, honestly, should probably look at a method, that sort of strategy going forward.
Like still under the Marvel banner, but not connected to the MCU.
I think because it controls everything. You talked about the connectivity earlier and how it's kind of loosening a little bit, and they're being a little bit more flexible, and not in a good flexible way. It's just like it's bending a little bit. How like they're trying to connect all these different movies since 2008. That's just so hard, and they're clearly like they're not failing yet, but it's like it's clearly showing.
People are upset with Phase 4, man. Phase 4 has not been successful.
I
like compared to the previous iterations, previous phases of Marvel, it's been really contentious. It just feels like it. It didn't, even though like Phase 1 didn't have overwhelmingly amazing movies and great cinematic experiences compared to Phase even 2 or especially Phase 3. It just feels like this one is really dividing fandom, and it's gonna be interesting leading into Phase 5, where you don't have an Avenger movie, and you don't have that big team up other than Thunderbolts, a bunch of characters you're establishing from these TV shows. Can you still maintain that viewership to have that momentum going into Phase 6, where you have Fantastic Four coming, potentially mutants, and then obviously the Avenger movies?
I wouldn't be surprised if Thunderbolts or like some of these movies went straight to Disney Plus.
God damn, if they have a movie go to Disney Plus, I don't think you can do it, man.
Again, it's just this canon's getting too big and too much to control. And I think it's clearly like showing its cracks. Like I said, it's bending right now. It's not breaking, it's bending. And the fans are like driving that, especially on social media. And then connecting back to our conversation, it's like, and then you put the fans' comments on your show. blasting your fans again.
That is
Just
crazy.
such a hot thing to do, a bold thing to do. I don't know how Kevin Feige greenlit it. I think he again
Maybe
too
he's
big for the
not
britches.
overseeing it as much. You know, he's
He's the
got
first
so many
producer on there.
projects. Is he?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I think that's going to do it for this reaction, though. And make sure you're still tuning in. Make sure that you are following the feed. An awesome draft just dropped, right? Yesterday, we had Big Mike on, right? Our DC correspondent and our Middle Earth correspondent to preview the Rings of Power coming to Amazon Prime, Lord of the Rings prequel. First 2 episodes dropping this Friday. Make sure you're following the feed also for the reaction to that episode. And then also House of the Dragon Sunday. We got reactions and breakdown Monday. Make sure you're tuning in. Even though we don't got movies here right now at this moment, guess what we do have? Some fire shows. I don't think we don't really necessarily include She-Hulk in that conversation, but some people might think so. Rings of Power getting amazing reviews on the first couple episodes. House of Dragon, if you've been following us, you know how much we're loving it. Make sure you're also subscribing to the YouTube, which you may be watching right now. It's buzzing right now. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, tell your friends about it. Make sure you also, if you're listening on the pod, rate 5 stars and leave a review. You leave a review, we'll read it on the pod, good or bad, make us laugh, and I don't know, give you some love. All right, that's going to do it for episode 141 of the Drive-In Podcast. For Ricky Flex and Dr. O, until next time, we will smell ya.